I think it's one of the easiest and most underrated exercises when it comes to healthy living. So eating too close to bedtime can also obviously disrupt your digestive system, increase your risk for heartburn or indigestion. Lean muscle mass is so important to maintain, especially as we're getting older. Most of us have heard of the term sarcopenia, which is muscle loss as we age. We want to make sure that we maintain that muscle lean mass as long as possible. Number one, if you listen to the podcast, you know I love daily walks. I think it's one of the easiest and most underrated exercises when it comes to healthy living, not only improving cardiovascular health, strengthening bones, boosting mood, getting outside, getting some vitamin D. And so I typically like to use my walks around my meals. So if I have a meal, I go for a walk. Now, let's say you don't have as much flexibility in your schedule. You can incorporate walking into your commute by just parking farther away. Let's say you have to go to the train, park farther away, getting off at public transport a little bit earlier, using your breaks during work to just walk around. Even short bouts of movement matter as well. So, try to make it more enjoyable. Maybe walk with a coworker or listen to a podcast like my podcast or create a fun playlist on Spotify that you can go and listen to. I typically like to walk with my dogs and I don't listen to anything, just sort of enjoy the moment, the outside, and just stay present. But either way, taking daily walks is a non-negotiable for myself, and I think it's something, if you haven't already, to start incorporating. Next, we talk about managing stress. I think incorporating some type of meditation practice can really help you stay centered and grounded. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, you can use Headspace or Calm, one of these meditation apps, to help guide you. It's all about just finding a quiet space where you're not going to be disturbed. And I would just experiment. Start small and gradually increase, but I think 10 minutes is plenty. And just focusing on your breath or some positive affirmations. You can get these affirmations off YouTube. I've been doing that as well. So I think meditation is a game changer when it comes to managing stress and just enhancing mental clarity throughout the day. Number 3, fueling your day with whole foods. If I could just think of the most probably basic and simple way to go about constructing your diet, I would say it's just eating whole nutrient-dense foods that don't have labels. Things like fruits, vegetables, lean proteins. You can do some starches and maybe some legumes from time to time. But, if you can stick to like 80% whole foods, these are going to get you your essential vitamins and minerals that you're going to need throughout the day to fuel your body. This is probably the most simplistic way I can state is around just constructing a diet. There's a lot of different rhetorics out there when it comes to eating, anything from carnivore to vegetarian. But I think if you can try to go the balanced route and adjust as needed, I think that's really the way to go. One way to ensure this is you could do some meal prepping. I've talked on this before, just making sure that you have everything in place for the week. You can have your proteins delivered to your house monthly or weekly, and then just couple that with some type of, perhaps a carbohydrate like a starch or a vegetable or a fruit. And I think if you can just stay consistent with that, keep it simple, I think that's the best way to construct your plate when it comes to eating. Number 4, this one might be tough for some people, especially if they travel and they do a lot of business meals and dinners out and about. But, stop eating 3 hours before bed is a big one. For one, this will stop your late night snacks, because we all know that probably nothing that serves you is being eaten late at night. So eating too close to bedtime can also obviously disrupt your digestive system, increase your risk for heartburn or indigestion, and keep you tossing and turning all night. I would aim for having a fast those last 3 hours before bedtime, and I think that'll promote deeper and more restorative sleep and help you avoid things like heartburn and GERD. People make fun of my wife and I, but we aim to eat around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So even if we go out to dinner with another couple or family, we try to have it on the earlier side. It's just a good habit to get into. It's not going to always work out perfect, but getting into the routine of eating earlier, I think, is a great way to not only improve the quality of your sleep, but to also make sure that you're digesting your food completely before you go to bed. Number 5, big one for me. I've been doing it for over 25 years. I've been incorporating resistance training at least 3 times per week. And I think the key when it comes to resistance training is just staying consistent. We all know that resistance training can help build strong bones, improve metabolism, even like boost longevity. And lean muscle mass is so important to maintain, especially as we're getting older. Most of us have heard of the term sarcopenia, which is muscle loss as we age. We want to make sure that we maintain that muscle lean mass as long as possible, and it'll help reduce the risk of any type of chronic disease. So I would just think of it this way: schedule your weightlifting sessions like they're appointments, just like you do for work. Put them in the schedule. Sunday night, you know exactly when you're lifting. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this time. And it's just a non-negotiable. Even if it's 20-30 minute session, it doesn't have to be an hour and a half long session, but you want to keep it consistent and the same time each week. Number 6 is limiting screen time before bed. And obviously we know screens are a big part of modern life. A lot of people are looking at screens throughout the entire day, and we all know that electronic devices emit blue light, which can suppress melatonin later in the day, this hormone that helps regulate your sleep cycle. So I would just make it a habit to either turn off or quiet your device an hour before bed. Pick up a book instead, maybe do some meditation like we talked about. And if you need to be in front of a screen, or let's say you just want to watch a great basketball game that's on, since we have the NCAA tournament going on right now, just get some blue light blocking glasses. They're not perfect, but they definitely can reduce your eye strain, improve the quality of your sleep. One other thing is you can also activate night mode feature on your devices to minimize that blue light exposure as well. So yeah, let's limit screen time before bed. If you could do it an hour before, I think that's a great habit to get into. Lastly, I've talked to a lot of quote unquote sleep experts on the podcast, and one that kept coming up when it came to sleep was sticking to a consistent nighttime routine and wake up time. Obviously we all thrive on routines, and especially when it comes to sleep. So going to bed and waking up at the same time every day will help regulate your internal clock, also known as your circadian rhythm. So I think if you emphasize maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, you're going to have better energy, better mood, and focus throughout the day. So for me, typically I like to go to bed around 10:30 and get up around 6:30, and that usually gives me plenty of time of quality sleep. One good tip is you can set your alarm to remind you to start preparing for bed rather than just to wake up. Typically we think of an alarm as to wake us up, but if you can set that alarm on your clock like an hour before, just to give yourself time to prepare to have a quality sleep, I think that's a great way to go. So stay consistent when it comes to bedtime and wake up time. So there you have it. Just wanted to get back to the basics here. It's not about overhauling your entire routine. It's about starting small and being consistent. I would just begin with 1 or 2 habits, and as they become second nature, then you can add on from there. Staying consistent and committing to these daily habits like I've talked about: walking, meditating, eating whole foods, prioritizing sleep and resistance training. You're definitely going to be well on your way to healthy living. And remember, progress is more important than perfection. So let me know in the comments or shoot me an email at brian@briangryn.com. What healthy habit are you going to start today? And if you're looking for some guidance when it comes to gaining energy, muscle, and improving sleep and stress, so I'll leave a link in the show notes for a 15-minute breakthrough health call with me today, and we'll get you well on your way to started. I think having a coach is important, especially if you find yourself getting back into your old routines. So look forward to talking with you.